Hello and welcome to the Global Dialogue. I'm Shereen Bhan, and joining me on the program today is a man who's seen a change in his role at Truecaller, which is of course a global company based out of Sweden, which started its operations in 2009 but prides in having India as its largest market, with 70% of its revenue coming in via India. Joining me now is the man who is the first non-founder global CEO of Truecaller, Rishit Jhunjhunwala. Many thanks for joining us here on the program. Let me start by talking to you about your change in role as well as this elevation. As I said, the first professional CEO, non-founder CEO of Truecaller. That's been quite the journey, not just for the company, but for you as well.
Yeah, it's been a fantastic journey. I joined the company in 2015. We were much smaller then. I think we were like 50 people only. We had 25 million active users. Since then, and getting here, it's been quite a ride. It's been quite a roller coaster. But I think Alan Nami.
More ups, I would imagine.
Yeah, you don't hear about the downs. I think under the hood, a lot goes on. But yeah, it turned out really well for us. Yeah.
So I want to understand the mindset shift for you personally, because as the Chief Product Officer, and of course, as I said, the man responsible for India, which is your largest market, to now this global role as the global CEO of Truecaller, what has that meant in terms of a mindset shift for you?
It's a huge shift, actually. And the example I like to state is, so the difference between a founder and a CEO. What is the difference between these two? Actually, these two roles, I believe, are complete opposites. A founder is supposed to introduce risk into the business. A founder is supposed to find ways to shake up the organization, take the organization to the next orbit, right? A CEO's job actually is the opposite. It's to introduce stability into the business. It's to keep things going the way they are, smooth sailing, right? And I think that is the biggest change that I have to make in my brain. That I have to, as a company, we must continue to be very innovative. We must operate in founder mode all the time. And I think that is the biggest change, that I should not operate like a CEO. I should actually be operating like a founder.
So a founder CEO mindset is what you're working with. But in order to find that balance between taking risks as well as bringing about stability, and it is a fine balance. What have been some of the things that you're doing differently today? It's only been a few months since you actually took on this role, but how are you thinking about it differently?
Right. So I think how we have to think about it is that the stage that we play in, the canvas that we paint on, is the mobile phone communication canvas, right? We solve a part of the problem around communication, which is spam, unwanted calls and messages, fraud, scams that take place. We've solved that problem really well. Recently, we've introduced even more capabilities, such as Assistant, for example, which lets your digital assistant pick up the call and actually have the conversation. So, it's an AI-powered assistant that actually understands what somebody else is saying and can have a meaningful conversation on your behalf.
Okay.
So we have to continue down this path of making communication safe, efficient, and change the way the world communicates. And the reason why we've discovered this path actually is because the whole world has moved towards a phone number. In emerging markets especially, the phone number is everything. It is your bank, it is your identity, it is your connect to the world, everything. Business takes place on the phone. There's less and less email in the world now, right? And as digital services, the adoption of all the digital services that take place around mobile phones, the importance of your mobile phone number and making that really efficient and really safe is becoming more and more important. So that's the path that we're going to continue on. We have a really big canvas to paint on because there are trillions of calls taking place and trillions of messages being exchanged. And we believe there's a lot of work to do in that space.
I will address the issue of adding capabilities, and you just gave us one example of what you've been able to do as far as this agent, digital agent or assistant is concerned in a second. But let's just understand, for the benefit of our viewers, the quantum of the problem that we're actually talking about. And I know that Truecaller puts out data annually on what is actually going on as far as frauds are concerned, spam calls are concerned. I mean, what are we talking about? In 2025, give me a sense of the magnitude of the problem that we're dealing with.
It's quite a large problem. It's a global problem. It's not just in a few markets that we are seeing. We process trillions of calls every year, and we believe that probably 1/5 of them are calls that are unwanted. So that's the scale that actually we kind of operate on.
When you say unwanted, can you qualify what you mean by unwanted specifically?
Unwanted could be spam, calls that are unsolicited. It could be scam calls. These days there are so many types of scams taking place. The latest one, I think, is the digital arrest scam.
Yeah.
We've seen so much, damage being created by such scams. I think the government is cracking down on it really well. Also now, we play our part in this as well.
You said that this is a global problem, and I acknowledge the fact that it's a global problem. But what we're seeing in India, and you talked about the digital arrest, and that's just one kind of scam that's playing out today. There's been a bunch of others, FedEx and so on and so forth. We don't need to go down that road. But has it surprised you what we're seeing today in terms of the diversity of the kinds of scams and frauds that customers are faced with, as well as the quantum, the sheer intensity of what people are going through as well? And how different is it with what you're seeing globally?
I think it is not surprising. I mean, we've been doing this for 15 years now, and we've been doing this, cat and mouse game with very innovative bad actors, on the other side. So we are not surprised by anything anymore. I can give you an example. During the COVID times, for example, there was a whole slew of very innovative scams taking place, related to medical equipment or hospital beds, and all these type of scams came up. In Egypt, for example, there are completely different types of scams where somebody says that they were digging near your house and they found a golden statue. It's called a golden statue scam.
Really?
Yes. In the US, it's IRS-related scams.
Yeah.
Where they call the elderly, which is a vulnerable segment.
Which is similar to what's happening here through the customs and ED and so on and so forth. I mean, those are the kinds of things that we're faced with over here.
Exactly. So now we're not surprised by anything. We know that there is a very innovative set of bad actors who now have tools at their disposal as well. I mean, take AI for example. We have seen examples where, it takes 3 seconds to clone your voice, for example. Yeah. And you can make calls to your family talking exactly like you, and make them do things that they wouldn't have done otherwise.
You talked about AI and how the bad actors are using AI, whether it's for voice cloning or to create fake videos and so on and so forth. What's happening at the back end from your point of view? How are you using AI to address some of these solutions? So AI going after the problem that also AI is generating in many ways.
Yeah, absolutely. We are actually using AI to tackle AI. It has to be like that. We've actually used a lot of AI for a very long time now. We always had models where we could detect that this number is likely to be a spammer, or this message sender is likely to be a spammer. Those were some of the basics that we did a long time ago. Then we started looking at, we actually acquired a company in 2021 called Call Hero. And they had made this assistant feature. It was in very, very early stages, which was a AI-powered voice that could actually have a conversation. So we integrated that into the product. Okay. We're now looking at AI almost across the business, not only protecting consumers and improving consumers' communication, but also from a business point of view, from our biggest revenue stream is advertising. How can we help brands leverage AI on our platform and get better bang for their buck? We've invested very heavily on various parts of our business, even operationally. We're using AI on customer support, for example. Even our legal team is looking at AI products. Our developers looking at AI products. So AI is very deep into our business now, and pretty significant investments are being made into AI as we speak.
You know, when you talk about significant investments and you give us an example of one of the acquisitions that you did, when you look at capability enhancement, are you looking more at the M&A route of taking that forward? Because you've done a bunch of, acquisitions. You named one. There's been what? Truecaller was another one that you did. TrustChecker was another one that you did. So are you looking at more M&A?
Yeah, we're always looking at M&A. We believe that, I mean, we're a small company. We are.
Yeah, people don't realize you're just what, about 450 or 470 people?
We're 430 people.
430,
actually, globally.
So less than that.
We're a very small company, and there's this unsaid rule in the company, where which is that we will have one employee per million users.
One employee per million users?
Yes. So we have around 430 million users today, and we have 430 people.
And how did you arrive at this mix?
It was just something that came about. That I think it came about from a cultural point of view, that we wanted to be a lean organization. It doesn't matter the size of the business. Technology doesn't mean that we throw people at the problem necessarily. We throw technology at the problem. We want to thrust large spans of responsibility on people, because we believe that the smartest people love more responsibility. So we try to be lean always, and that's where it really comes from. And because we're lean, we need to always look at inorganic ways, right? We need to look at people who have built technology products that are adjacent to us, and we will always pursue that type of M&A.
So, when you talk about building out these adjacencies and whether you do that organically or you do it inorganically, as you look at the landscape today, as you look at the fact that you've now got, for instance, in your largest market in India, telcos getting into your business, which is identifying spam calls and so on and so forth, how much pressure does that put on you to look at opening up adjacencies, to opening up new revenue streams, to building on new capabilities and offering more solutions?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't use pressure as the word there, but definitely it opens up our eyes. We were always looking at adjacent areas. We know that communication, like I said earlier, one of the problems in communicating with the world is security, right? The second problem is unwanted communication.
Right.
It's like people knocking on your door and you don't know who's knocking on your door.
Yeah.
That's not a good situation to be in.
Yeah.
So we solved that problem, or we continue to solve that problem. But there are many other problems that are still remaining to be solved.
Like what?
I mean, so many examples I can give you. When you call up customer care for an airline, how long do you wait on that call?
Well, it depends.
I mean, technology should have solved this problem by now, that you don't need to wait this long for a customer care call to go through. Or, for example, when you have to do a menial task, like call the restaurant and tell them that you're running 10 minutes late, technology should have solved this problem by now. You shouldn't need to pick up the phone.
So is Truecaller going to help solve some of these problems, and how?
Absolutely. These are all the areas that we are exploring. I'm just telling you the problems that we keep seeing in our daily lives around communication.
Yeah.
There are many of these problems, and we will absolutely do everything we can to try and solve more and more of these problems.